Good morning. I'm Pat McCrory, Governor of North Carolina. As we said yesterday, Hurricane Matthew is off the map, well into the ocean, but it still is right here in North Carolina to the people of North Carolina, because we still have very, very serious issues that are ongoing, have been ongoing throughout the night. And in fact, just during the past 2 hours, we have a very serious situation in Lumberton, in which ongoing rescues are going on, rescuing some people off the roofs of their house due to a breach, which is impacting about 1,500 residents. And this just occurred, I think, early this morning when it was still dark. And flood rapids are rising very quickly, and we know we believe it's due to a breach in a levee in Lumberton. I just got off the phone with the chairman of Robeson County, and he's walking into the Emergency Operations Center at this point in time. Actually, he was stuck in traffic because we're dealing with issues also because parts of I-95 right there are washed off and people are being diverted around that, and some of the trucks are going into Lumberton, which is causing some logistic issues that we're dealing with at this point in time, because at the same point we're dealing with evacuation of neighborhoods. We're also trying to deal with the I-95 traffic closing, and we're working on those logistics as we speak. But we have reports that we have nearly 1,500 residents in Lumberton that are stranded right now. Most of the water is about knee deep, but we do have people on the roofs as we speak, and we have a lot of helicopters and boats that have been deployed that are at this point in time rescuing them. Both helicopters, boats, and swift water teams are going very heavily to that neighborhood that's being impacted by this breach. The FAA has also issued a temporary flight restriction over Lumberton so all aviation activity can focus on the rescues. So with all due respect to even the media or anyone else who wants to look at this, we're probably going to make you move over so they do not get in the way with any of the rescue helicopters. We also do not want drones over the flooded areas. I cannot stress that to you more. I know there are some pictures of drones flying over. They are endangering our helicopter rescue teams. I cannot stress that more. The whole drone is a whole new technology, but it can be a very dangerous technology also in this type of situation. So we do not want any drone activity over the flooded areas at this point in time. The last thing we want is a drone hitting one of our helicopters. But if we see a drone, we've got to withdraw the helicopters, and that could be a life or death situation for an individual. The greatest threat at this point in time remains inland flooding that will continue throughout this week in both central and eastern North Carolina. We predicted this prolonged activity 3 days ago, and that prediction is actually happening. The people who live near rivers, streams, and levees need to be extremely careful as flooding is expected throughout the coming week. I'm very sad to report that we now stand at 10 confirmed storm-related fatalities. There's a brand new fatality that we have in Johnson County. Again, another car drove into flooded waters and was swept away. We also have reports of 5 missing people, 4 in Cumberland County and 1 in Johnson County. We're trying to find out if those people have left or somewhere else, or the potential that their car was swept into flooded waters. So those ongoing searches are for these 6 missing people. We do want to make sure that if you have any family members missing that should have already come home, please report that to your local authorities so we can retrace the track of where they may have been driving. I cannot stress more. If you see a road that's flooded, do not take your car through that road. If you see a barrier, do not go around that barrier. This is a life and death decision. Not only are you making for you, you're making it also for rescue personnel who will be called upon to try to save your life. Central and eastern North Carolina have additional flooding predicted for towns and cities along the Lumber, Cape Fear, Neuse, and Tar Rivers. along with many other subsidiary rivers and creeks. This is an extremely dangerous situation. Overnight evacuations near Lumberton, more than 1,000 people have already been evacuated in Lumberton, and that was before the breach this morning. Several mandatory evacuations have been issued. In Kinston, a mandatory evacuation for all residents in the Neuse River Basin. Greenville, mandatory evacuation yesterday. And I cannot stress how important that is, that these people follow these evacuations. We're looking at the Hurricane Floyd models. We now have it on software. We know basically what structures are in danger. We have incredible computer simulations showing this, and including in Lumberton, by the way. For right now in Lumberton, there's a possibility of over 500 structures being impacted by water, and that was before, I believe, this levee was broken. Dare County, there's an imposed curfew still, and only property owners and vehicles are still allowed in. We'll see if that has changed since yesterday. Halifax County imposed a curfew on Sunday. We are assuming that's still in place. Princeville has been hit very, very hard. Mandatory evacuation and very high flooding in Princeville. And remember, in each of these flooding circumstances that either have occurred or are going to occur, people are going to be in danger, and we need to do everything we can to help them, and that's why we cannot stress more to stay out of the airspace and also stay off the roads in those areas if you do not need to be the roads, because if you get into your car for no reason outside those flood zones, you may be impacting those people's ability to evacuate. Water rescues, we've had over 1,400 water rescues using 79 boat crews and 334 rescue helicopters. This number is expected to rise throughout the day. 703 rescues were in Cumberland County, where we've added swiftwater rescue teams from FEMA and other states. We do have now over 600 North Carolina National Guard troops. Nearly 200 high water and rescue vehicles have been activated, and there are more on the way as we speak. We are working in many, many counties at this point in time through the National Guard. I'm so proud of the National Guard and what they're doing. Also, the U.S. Coast Guard is doing an outstanding job. Their helicopters are extremely well suited for some of these water rescues, and we really appreciate them. Just remember, the weather looks great out there. Carolina, blue skies throughout North Carolina, but it's very dangerous conditions on the road. We also have 2 special medical support shelters operating in Johnson and Wayne counties. State Highway Patrol still is helping. North Carolina wildlife officials are helping. We still have water issues in Fayetteville, Beaufort County, Gates County, Johnson County, Northampton County. We still have boil advisories in Fayetteville, Sanford, Robinson County, Duplin County, and I believe still Carolina Village and Currituck. And we'll let you know if that has changed. The power situation is improving. However, it may get worse in the areas that are about to be flooded. Currently, we have about 506,000 structures without power. By the way, when you say 506,000 structures, that means that's a lot more people. Think about it. That's probably well over 1 million people without power. That's 10% of our population in North Carolina, all in a very small area, at least 10%. And so this is a very, very serious issue for our co-ops and Duke Energy. They have got crews from all over the nation working in North Carolina as we speak. And I know a lot of those men and women have not had a lot of sleep. So please be patient, because they have to be well rested to do very, very dangerous work. Right now, disaster relief shelters, we had about 2,600 people spend last night in about 60 emergency shelters. We expect that number to decrease in certain areas of the state and now increase in other areas of the state, especially those areas along the 3 major rivers. The American Red Cross, the Baptist Men, and Salvation Army are executing a mass feeding operation right now in Cumberland County. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate people giving. And right now, if you want to help and you're not being impacted by this storm, we have thousands of people that need your help. We've got a lot of volunteers. If you want to help support disaster relief efforts, call 1-800-RED CROSS or 1-800-SAL-ARMY. We appreciate that very much. We are opening a volunteer intake center in Fayetteville at 10 a.m. today, and at the Kiwanis Recreation Center on 352 Devers Street. We also want to thank many of our private sector partners who have stepped up, including the Walmart Foundation, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the North Carolina Beverage Association, Sprint, Arby's, and Lowe's and Home Improvement are donating lots of supplies and also water to those areas impacted. If you're interested in helping, if you're a private sector industry that can help us, especially with water and other needed supplies to these areas that have already been hit or are about to be hit, we ask you to call 919-825-2454 so we can coordinate getting those needed supplies to the impacted areas. We also want to let the agricultural community know that there is an ag disaster hotline at 1-866-645-9403. It's very, very important. I've been on the phone with Commissioner Troxler. He is staying extremely engaged with those in the ag community, and we're keeping up with the reports in that too. The state is monitoring potential environmental issues, dealing with this flooding in both the ag community, the utility industry, and the wastewater issues with the utilities' local systems. 38 school systems are closed at this point in time, so check your notices of where those school closings are, and actually we're using a lot of schools right now for shelters. Numerous road closing. I've got Nick Tennyson here to give you any more information, but parts of I-95 are closed still in multiple locations due to flooding from 4 Oaks south through Fayetteville and Lumberton, I-40 in locations in Johnson County in and around Benson, as well as both directions near exit 355 in Sampson County. Parts of US 70 in both directions in Wayne and Lenore counties. This is east and west of Goldsboro. Parts of NC Highway 12, Dare County, which happens all the time, is also closed. So to the national audience, if you're planning to come through North Carolina from the north in Virginia or any of our northeastern states, or the south through South Carolina into North Carolina, we don't recommend it at this point in time. You're going to be delayed, and frankly, our major priority is to get local traffic through for evacuations. And we will hold up traffic on 95 to give priority to people who need to evacuate neighborhoods at this point in time. We'll try to get you through detours, but if those detours are impacting local evacuations, you will wait. And if you are waiting, we strongly encourage you to not try to search for your own way in and around I-95, because you yourself might get caught in a flood. And we'd also prefer you stay out of downtown Fayetteville at this point in time because of all the activity that we have with emergency vehicles. Funding, I just want to let you know we've got several questions for funding. We are still in the rescue phase, and ensuring people's safety is our top priority. We are going to have a significant price tag. We are going to get, hopefully, help from the federal government. I think we're going to definitely qualify for the disaster relief funds, and we are doing the appropriate paperwork. I signed the documents yesterday. I'm very pleased. I want to thank my fellow legislators, and I want to thank my budget director also, who ensured that we have a rainy day fund of $1.6 billion. And we also had one of the largest funds for emergency responses that we've had in well over a decade, of over $12 million. That now is being depleted as we speak. Parts of that was depleted several weeks ago in Charlotte, and with the fuel shortage and with the floods in the east. But I want to thank my budget director and also the legislature for not using that money elsewhere when the temptation was great this year. I'm so pleased that we have those funds available both in the rainy day fund and in our emergency response fund. This is why we do it. It's to deal with these types of disaster. I want to also thank our federal partners. Mike wanted me to especially mention our county and local partners are working extremely well together as a team. They are not sleeping at this point in time. People in this room many rooms behind me on 2 floors are also not sleeping. They're not sleeping because they know that people are hurting right now. We care for those people that are stranded on the roofs and in shelters under much worse conditions. And so our thoughts and prayers are with each of them, and sadly our thoughts and prayers are with those families that lost their loved ones. We do not want any more. We do not want this to climb any more regarding loss of life. So with that, we'll take any other questions, or if there's anything else I need to add. Thank you, General Luss. Thank you, Colonel Gray. Thank you, Frank Perry. Thank you, Secretary Tennyson, and especially Mike Sprayberry and their great team. Yes, sir. If you could recognize yourself, and then we got a microphone.
Gary Robertson, Associated Press.
Hey, Gary.
What about I-95? You mentioned a lot of closings. Obviously, it's a concern for both local and national traffic. What would you tell people in terms of how long it might be before all of I-95 will be replaced?
I don't think we can answer that question at this point in time. We just had another levee break in Lumberton. I don't think we could answer that question right now.
It's not going to be weeks, but it certainly is not going to be today, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a break today, and another portion was closed today. So this is, you know, hopefully it'll be repaired as quick as possible. But the next several hours, no, then we cannot tell. We're still doing an evaluation of the breakage at this point in time. We have detour signs, but again, we just recommend you not come through I-95 because our major priority is evacuation.
Governor Bowman at CBS North Carolina, you talked about how widespread this situation is right now. You also talked about funding, being in touch with the federal government. I'm assuming you've been in touch with FEMA as well regarding resources.
Oh, FEMA's right here on the ground. They're doing an outstanding job.
Resources. Do you have enough resources right now to face the situation?
We believe we do, but Mike has given me assurance that it's a matter of where to put the resources. The logistics is that we have the resources. It's a matter of shifting the resources where the immediate needs are. You got to remember, we just dealt with the issues down at the beach, including Oak Island, all the way up to the Outer Banks. We're talking about a large swath of area. And I think Mike would have concurred. It's just getting the logistics there. And when we just, for example, had a levee break this morning, and thank God we've got the logistics of appropriate helicopters and other getting there. Mike, you might want to give a quick update on where all the helicopters are coming from, because we are getting resources from the military, the Guard, and neighboring states at this point in time. Mike, why don't you give that head?
So the governor's on target. You know, we just found out about the levee break just a couple of hours ago, and we've already got roughly 20 to 25 boats in the water down there around Lumberton. We've got helicopters overhead, so we have the capability to surge very rapidly to where something that we didn't actually foresee that levee breaching like it did, but we rapidly surged into the area, and we've been doing swiftwater rescues basically all over the eastern part of North Carolina. So we think that we have the right mix of resources. And again, a shout out to our locals who provide most of those resources actually, as well as the FEMA who have provided 3 good boat teams to us.
This is why I cannot emphasize more. If you've been told to evacuate, evacuate. Because if you don't evacuate, we've got to converge resources to your area and risk people's lives to save you. So now some of the people, for example, Lumberton right now, we're not, they were woke up in the middle of the night with water. So we're going to do everything we can to help them. They're being helped right now, and thank God it's daylight right now where we can see them. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, you mentioned that you have software that predicts flooding.
Yes.
What kind of software is it? What can you tell us or show us of that software?
What the software basically does is show the degrees of, as the river goes up this far, say the Tar River, we could predict exactly where the water will go to, and then we can see what structures are on the ground in the areas where the water is predicted to go to, and how high, if there's a breach over the wall. And we're having some record-breaking predictions and activities as we speak. We now know on a mapping process which buildings would most likely be impacted. By the way, it's still a model, but it's a lot better than what was available during Hurricane Floyd. So the local officials can tell by these models what areas will most likely be impacted. So instead of doing an evacuation of a much larger area than needed, this pinpoints the areas that really need to be evacuated, which doesn't strain the transportation resources as much and other resources that we need.
Was Lumberton a part of any of those models?
Was what?
Lumberton?
Oh, Lumberton's a part of the model, but what the model doesn't show is the breaches of dams. That's part of the problem. You know, it's very similar to what happened in Columbia, South Carolina, and in the previous year, I assume, with what Nikki Haley was having to deal with. So, but we've had several dam breaks too, and the models can tell if a dam does break, it does show what will most likely happen with that water. It's really a fascinating thing to look at. It's a very, very important tool for us. But we want to use it before the event occurs, not after. But and we're having people check all the dams. It's just hard to predict if you have a structural issue, and a lot of these dams have been checked and modified and inspected, and yet we still have breakage. So we're looking at, well, I'm sure we'll be doing studies of that after all this is done.
Russ Bowman with CBS North Carolina. I remember very well during Floyd, as those waters stood for weeks at a time, there was plenty of fuel, there was sewage, there was
Yes.
animal carcasses from livestock. What can you do to encourage people to stay out of the water who might be tempted to go back into their homes to salvage what they can?
That is a great point. This water that's going to be flooding or is already flooded is extremely dangerous, not just from a water standpoint of the current, which can kill you, but the environmental aspect is very dangerous. You're going to have this water is going over pavement and roads where there's environmental issues. You're going to have environmental issues from chemicals from the farm community, and sadly, you're going to have animals involved in this process. And one of our goals will be, if there is any type of animals, we're going to try to get those animals removed as quick as possible, because they do cause significant environmental issues. So thank you for bringing that up. That water is not safe. So we've seen in videos before where people just go, well, I'll go walk through the water just for the heck of it to see how deep it is. And that water, whether it be downtown Wilmington, which we had some water, it's not clean. It's not clean water, and it can impact you. I cannot stress more too, almost all injuries or health issues occur after the storm. But right now we're more concerned about those people being rescued. But thank you for bringing that point up. Water is dangerous in many, many different ways. Any other questions? I'd like to thank especially North Carolina media, and I also want to thank the Weather Channel for staying focused on this very, very important issue. You're very important in communicating this to the general public, and you're very important for us in getting the word out so you can save lives. And on behalf of all the mayors and chairmen of the county commissions and the emergency operation workers, we just want to say thank you for your teamwork. And I also want to thank the federal government, including the president, for his team in helping us in any way. They're all right here. His FEMA people is, and I think they're bringing some military brigadier generals coming in today to visit with us today, showing the teamwork with the potential help from the military. So it's been a team effort, and it's going to take a team effort to get through this next several weeks. Thank you, and God bless each one of you.